What's up, everybody? Welcome to JL Vids. Thank you for coming back to another slate breakdown for DraftKings Week 4. Hope you were profitable last week, as always, and we're just going to jump right into this thing.
Yeah, so jumping right into it, of course, we have Patrick Mahomes up top at 7,500 against Detroit, who has given it up to quarterbacks this year. Not a lot to be said here. Obviously, it's Patrick Mahomes. Walking 300 yards, 3 touchdowns a game, get you some every single week.
Absolutely. And against Detroit, all over it. We're just going to go through and tell you that we're not going to discuss every single person who we don't like. We're just going to hit the main points of players that were on this week. Another guy worth considering, Deshaun Watson.
Yeah, for Deshaun last week, really flashed his upside. He really didn't show it a lot throughout the first 2 weeks of the season, but he got there last week, I believe, on like 30-something DraftKings points.
Yeah.
The upside with him is really high. The price is still fair, and it's a really up-tempo game here with Carolina and Houston. Both teams like to push the ball. I love Deshaun Watson at 6,400.
And now we've seen Kyle Allen, what he's made of, and you can hate me if you want to. He's better than Cam straight up.
Yeah, at least right now, for
Kyle
sure.
Allen's going to be pushing the ball. We already know that. So like he said, this should be up-tempo. Deshaun should have plenty of work.
Yeah.
For sure. Moving on down, Russell Wilson is another guy that we're really all over.
Yeah, so I believe this is probably going to be one of the chalkier quarterbacks of the week will be Russell Wilson.
Yeah.
But the matchup is just too good here, and the price is too good. Russ Wilson last week, I believe, pushed 40 DraftKings points. That's kind of the upside he can carry. I believe he done it through throwing the ball 50 times, of course, right? And getting 2 rushing touchdowns. So, obviously not expecting 44 DraftKings points again, but
look at,
yeah, so he's just been incredible this year. 7 touchdowns, no picks.
The past 2 weeks, 44, 28.
So if he gets you to like 24, you're happy, and I don't see a reason why he wouldn't be able to do that in a soft matchup here against Arizona.
Absolutely.
Quickly, I just want to touch on Jared Goff too, because we seen last week what Daniel Jones done to him. He absolutely shredded him. I know Goff hasn't had a crazy fantasy year at all so far, just kind of average. But he's going to pop off. And if you know anything about Jared Goff last year, he was way better at home. And he gets Tampa Bay at home. This kind of seems like a really good spot for Jared Goff. I'm going to have some in tournaments for sure.
Absolutely. There's, if you've watched our videos, we're all over Josh Allen every week. He's still at 5,600. His price is staying the same, just at New England. It's probably a good cash game play, maybe. He's staying right around at 20. He's not seeming to have that ceiling like always, but I do like Josh Allen probably every week, just to be honest with you.
In theory, like playing from behind against New England, you're kind of just hoping he doesn't commit a ton of turnovers and stuff. That could definitely happen, but if he's playing well from behind, right, like he could really explode here at 5,600.
Absolutely. Do like him, though. Now, somebody that I really like a lot, on the other side, we were talking about Patty, Detroit giving it up to quarterbacks. Kansas City just doesn't have a defense, right? They score 35, 40 points. Patty throws 4 touchdowns in a quarter, but they don't do that great at defending it.
Yeah, kind of what we were mentioning with Deshaun earlier, like how both teams are pushing the pace. Kansas City's always, of course, pushing the pace.
It forces the other team to do it. Matthew Stafford will throw it 60 times.
So he's going to throw the ball a lot, playing from behind. He's got good weapons. We've seen last week with Marvin Jones, with Kenny Golladay, with Hawkinson, carry on. He's got good weapons everywhere. So Stafford looks like he's in a great spot here at 5,500.
Yep, absolutely. And our first player of our big 3 that we're going to be mentioning is Daniel Jones.
Yeah, so it kind of makes you just question what took so long, right, to get him in over Eli. He is really freaking good. He flashed mobility last week in the red zone with 2 rushing touchdowns, 39 DraftKings points. Come on.
23 for 36, man. 336 yards, 2 touchdowns, and no picks, man.
So DraftKings made it easy for us this week by only raising them up $300, right? He's only $5,300. If he was $6K, you would have to think about it. But at $5,300, you almost don't have to think about it.
It's a lock and load for me. Just put Daniel Jones in there.
Yeah.
Listen, if he gets you 20, he's 5.3.
Yeah.
Even if he has
that gets you right where you need to be.
Half the performance of what he had. Because 2 rushing touchdowns might not be something you can look. I don't know yet. That might not be something you can just always look for. But right here, it was 32-31. Obviously, if you watch that, Mike Evans was just absolutely insane. So they kept up.
Mm-hmm.
Playing against Washington, they should they should.
Another soft matchup.
Yeah,
right?
they should be ahead.
Trubisky just ate them up on,
yeah.
I believe it was Monday Night Football, so I don't see any reason why Daniel Jones could not do the
A
same.
lot worse defense than Tampa Bay is. I will say that.
Yeah.
So he should be in a very, very good spot. Moving on to running back.
So we got McCaffrey up top, kind of in a similar vein to Patty Mahomes in the sense of just get you some every single week. The price is not over 9K yet, which really shocks me, and I guess it's due to the matchup. Houston's kind of a tough running back matchup. But you're getting a running back that's game flow independent. If he's ahead, it's because he's rushing it 20 plus times. If he's behind, he's pushing 10 targets, right? He's the fantasy just perfect situation. 8.8, I'm not scared to play Christian McCaffrey at all this week.
No. Of course, if you keep up with news, which I would hope that you do, Barkley's out 4 to 8 weeks, which brings some interesting things into the mix that we'll get to later. But, of course, no Barkley this week. So that's your two guys up top that is, normally up there. And Barkley's not in that anymore. And Kamara is a Sunday night game. So McCaffrey is the only Dalvin
really
Cook,
stud running back.
To me, shouldn't be $8,300, but he's the only stud guy. So McCaffrey, I don't know yet. He could be chalky just because he's the only stud up there. But I think we talk about it a lot. People's going to look at fourth and probably just steer away from it. But definitely get Christian McCaffrey in there.
I feel like we have to at least mention Dalvin Cook, but we were talking about this prior to doing the recording. I'm not sure if I want to attack Chicago. Like, I feel like I don't have to do that to win money. Dalvin's got an incredible floor because they want to run the ball a lot, regardless if they're ahead, if they're behind. They're just going to run. Yep. And Dalvin's got some pass game work also. So at 8.3, I don't think he's going to just completely kill you, but I don't know if he wins you a tournament this week.
Right. And something he had talked about when we were talking about it, Dalvin has a good floor. Just because he's going to get usage alone. So, if he goes out there and rushes 20 times for 70 yards and, I don't know, falls in the end zone, it's still 14, 15 points, but you paid $8,300 for him.
That's calm.
Now, going against Chicago, though, we talked about this. This is not exactly accurate, so don't look at that completely. Chicago obviously has a good defense. I really don't know. I mean, I really don't. Chicago doesn't have much of an offense, in my opinion, most games. So it could be a lot of scoring, and Dalvin's really going at it. I have no idea.
Yeah.
It's a kind of a cautious thing.
Yeah.
With Dalvin this week.
And then for $300, right, you get way more of a guarantee with Austin Eckler.
Throw Eckler in there, man.
So the matchup, of course, is Miami. The matchup literally cannot get better for Austin Eckler. And it's so good that it's going to give some people some pause, right? Because if they're up, 28, 35 points, right, early in the third quarter, then it may be Justin Jackson time, and that's it for Eckler, right? And you don't want that. But if they do get up that much, I think Eckler would have a lot to do with it. Of course, great pass game work, uber efficient runner, all the goal line work. I mean, don't think yourself out of it. Play Austin Eckler.
Yeah, and he's the second guy in our big three. Honestly, this week is a little bit weak on the running back, in my opinion. Up top. I'm not interested in Chubb.
Ingram for tournaments, maybe, if you think he falls in the end zone a couple times again.
6,600.
But 6,600 for a back that pretty much you can't project him to have a lot of pass game work. It's hard to swallow.
It is. Moving on down, someone that I personally like. We already talked about Russell Wilson. I know Chris Carson just did not do well last week. He's honestly somebody to think about going back to.
Maybe lower ownership. Right?
Lower ownership just because of the offense. I mean, and going against Arizona.
Yeah.
I honestly do like Chris Carson. And I think ownership's his main key. People are going to, a lot of people play and they play a certain guy that they were in on and they go out there and get them, 10, 11. They're like, well, I'm not playing him next week. And these guys are professional football players. Yeah. They're going to have off days, whatever, unless you're Patty Mahomes. And, I mean, this is a good matchup to me, and he's a great tournament player.
Yeah, so exactly last week, right, week 2, Alvin Kamara was the uber chalk against the Rams, right, and he dudded hard. And he came back this week unowned. I had him 3% in one of my contests, and he gave me 37. These dudes are elite, out-of-this-world talents. If they burn you, go right back to him. You have to have a short memory in DFS.
Absolutely. And we already talked about Williams, right? Williams.
Yeah. Damian Williams.
Should be out.
Yeah.
As far as we know, he should be out. That is just fire up LaShawn McCoy again.
Yeah.
I mean, against Detroit, we already talked about it. It should be a fast-paced game. And listen, we always think, they only pass the ball. Patty Mahomes, listen, they pound the ball a lot on the ground.
They just have a really efficient offense, and we've talked about in previous episodes just attacking these high-powered offenses in general. If Damian Williams is out, Shady becomes the goal line back. He becomes the pass catching back. He becomes everything, right? Mm-hmm. So at 5,600, man, that's way too cheap for a matchup. It doesn't scare me.
Nope. And somebody else that we talked about, honorable mention probably for tournament plays, Sony Michel, same exact thing. Didn't do well last week.
Ownership, I'm nearly, he will not be 2% this week. Like, he's going to be unowned.
And he's in a fun matchup.
So, yeah, the matchup is really good here. People were going to see last week that he only got, I believe it was 7 carries, if you want to pull it up to double check. 9 carries for 11 yards. He was just terrible. I know he fell in the end zone, but he was terrible. So, but the week before, right, you've got 21 carries. If I can find, in this type of matchup, Sony Michel to get 15 carries, I think he's a log for around 4 yards per carry like he got in week 2. And if he falls in the end zone twice, all of a sudden you've got a great tournament play at, little ownership.
Another thing, if you want to look at the game that he had 21 rushes, they're playing against Miami, obviously the worst team in the league. So they're running the ball a lot. Well, Buffalo's far from the worst team in the league, but in theory, New England should be playing up. I would think they should be ahead at least by the second half.
Yeah.
And to me, that is just means for Sony Michel to get some touches.
Yeah, so it's kind of just echoing, just don't be scared to go back to these guys that burn you.
Absolutely. Kerryon Johnson's an honorable mention, but I need to see more.
Yeah,
I just do.
The thing with Kerryon last week is he finally got that uptick in the snap share. They just were not using him as a workhorse at all. I think he pushed 80% of the snaps last week. He was terrible. Listen, don't get it wrong. 20 carries for 36 yards does not get it done, no matter what. But he did get the touchdown last week, right? So beforehand, he wasn't the goal line back. Now it looks like they're ready to use him in that goal line, which is a huge step.
Yeah.
And if I can project it back with this talent to get 20 carries again, I will go back. I'm not scared to go back to Kerryon Johnson.
We already talked, man. Going against Kansas City, it's going to be high-paced. I honestly look for Detroit to be passing the ball more.
I do too.
But with that being said, that also puts Kerryon in a pretty good place to just have a breakout play or two.
Mm-hmm.
He's very talented. It's not that he's a bad player.
No.
He's just not working. I mean, it's just not working there right now.
So, obviously, I don't want to, put off the wrong signal here. I'm not going to be super heavy on Kerryon Johnson, right? It's a tournament play, and that's that. That's the end of it.
Yeah. I only have 98% exposure.
That's
let's see. That's pretty much.
Lindsey had a big week last week. I feel like he's just at least an honorable mention, but his Jacksonville 5,200, I don't know. And Royce Freeman, I believe, is hurt. If Royce Freeman is out, I think you at least have to get some Phillip Lindsay. I still don't love the matchup, but I really like Phillip Lindsay if Royce Freeman is out.
I think Jacksonville, though, with Boye and Jalen Ramsey, they're going to try to probably push Denver to pass because that's what they want. So Phillip Lindsay could be in a good spot just because, Jacksonville has a great secondary with Boye and Ramsey.
Yep. Which Ramsey, he's not going to play this week, right? Because of the where he's away from the team with the injuries and the birth of his child and all of that stuff, right?
About that.
So that does kind of change the dynamic of their secondary, but still, they're very talented secondary, very talented linebacking core. I don't think that necessarily changes in the grand scheme of things how you want to attack Jacksonville.
Right. So definitely an honorable mention.
And then I think we got to talk about
Wayne Gallman.
It's going to give me headaches. I don't know now at this point. We're recording Thursday night. Wayne Gallman, obviously, it goes without even being said, he's not Saquon Barkley. The little bit that we have from Wayne Gallman, we know he's a pretty good pass catching back at 4,600 against Washington. The matchup and everything is here. It's just no like guarantees here. This is not a thing like, well, he's just going to step in and just take all of Saquon's work, right? Like
Tournament play.
He's not going to jump into a guaranteed 20, 25 touches a game. That's just not what this is.
No.
So for 4,600, obviously some consideration, but I don't love it.
The only upside to me for Wayne Gallman is, well, first of all, you give Saquon 22 touches. He pretty much runs up the middle because he can get out of there. Wayne Gallman's not going to do that. He's obviously not like Saquon, but they use Saquon a lot for checkdowns, flats.
That's the thing.
In the seam, that kind of thing. Wayne Gallman's a very good pass catcher in the backfield. That would be his only, like, I don't see it being off of rushing attempts.
Yeah.
That would be his only.
Maybe he gets the goal line work still, like the deep, short little plunges, at the goal line. Maybe he gets that. So but once again, it's a maybe. Like I don't know that for sure.
Another thing, he's 4,600. If he gets you 2 catches for 20 yards and a touchdown and 3 rushes for 10,
like it kind of can start adding up and not be bad. So the price is great. Just please be careful.
Yeah, absolutely. I believe that is.
Yeah, I believe that's pretty much it.
That is it down there. Moving on to wide receiver. So Julio, I don't think is going to be too owned.
I don't think so. But you never really know. But I'm a Titans fan. I love attacking my Titans secondary. They're just not very good. Julio religiously in the past, whenever we play them, he just destroys us. No reason to not go back. He's got, of course, a great connection with Matt Ryan. He's been killing it ever since the dud he had in week 1. He's just been killing it. No reason to not play Julio Jones at 7,800. Kind of a similar thing with Hopkins also, right? Like these dudes are just so good, right? They're matchup proof. That 8th and that 6th, it doesn't scare me. Like you just get shares of both every single week.
Especially DeAndre, absolutely matchup proof. Doesn't matter. Keenan, we've already talked about. Eckler, Keenan is a little bit of a gamble. In a way,
it's a weird gamble this week, right? Because he's 7,600, but you're saying, well, his targets are guaranteed. Yeah, they are, but every single game they've been in this year, they've at least had to throw to stay in games, or like teams have been on their heels enough for them to have to keep passing. Like we're just scared that in a scenario where they are up huge, right? In the second half, like maybe instead of a 15 target game for Keenan, we get an 8 target game. And at 7,600, can he pay it off on 8 targets? Sure, he can, but like the odds there is just not as good at all.
And let's take this for example. First 2 weeks he had 8 catches, 10 and 15 targets. Let's say he caught all his targets. He got 8 of them. He caught them all. Didn't drop one. Didn't get broke up. Nothing. You're looking at 29, but then you're also looking at 17.
Even like
so, if he goes out and gets you 17,
don't really get it done this week.
You're not completely done, but like you could have paid for Julio, or you could have paid for DeAndre,
or you could have paid up at a running back for another spot. Like there's just.
But if it's one of his games where he's getting 17 targets and he gives you that right there, I mean,
so
he's really a tournament play.
And I think he's going to be very popular. I mean, for good reason. I'm not super in love with it. Last week I was all over it. If we could have got the video up last week, I was all over Keenan.
Yeah, sorry about that, by the way. So Odell,
kind of similar vein to Julio and Hopkins, but not quite the extent.
Right.
I think it's worth mentioning actually that Baltimore is a defense that focuses on stopping the run mostly if they can. So maybe this opens up some one-on-ones for Odell in a weird little matchup here where they're trying to stuff Nick Chubb all day. Tournament play, price is down. Maybe the ownership is down. We know Odell's got the upside. We've seen it in week 2.
Baker, I want to say this. Baker is doing a really good job at spreading the ball around. So OBJ's, to me, obviously the stud on the team. And he's still 11, 10, 9. Like really consistent right here at 10 targets. He's getting the ball to Jarvis Landry. He's getting the ball to Njoku, well, not now, but, tight ends, using Nick Chubb. He's really passing the ball around. So that's one thing with Odell. Don't expect more than 8 or 9. Like he's going to be right here. Like that's his.
If he's really on fire and they're having a matchup where they are stuffing the box a lot, maybe he pushes 13, 14 targets. But it's kind of you're just banking on what Odell is as a talent and the ownership potentially being down here. So for tournaments, Odell, of course.
The thing about Odell that does pop out to me is he's 7,300.
That's what I was saying.
The
price is down.
That's the cheapest that he's been all year. $500 off of last week because he went out there and got 11. Not a bad play.
It's the definition of a tournament play, right? The price is down, the ownership's down. That's when you hop on before everybody else does. So
I personally, we haven't talked about it. I don't know where you're at. I'm probably going to fade Mike Evans against Rams. People are going to play him because of last week.
Thinking they're going to get another 48 points. You're not.
No.
You're just not going to get that.
I'm a big Mike Evans fan, man, but like that doesn't.
And we've talked about this even when he was performing badly. Like we probably would have mentioned this in the episode. Like he is almost strictly a deep threat guy for this team. If they can't cover him deep, like he will have these 48-point explosions from time to time. Like it's going to happen, and it so happened it was last week. But it's going to be a thing that's hard to predict. That's the thing about it.
8 for almost 200 and 3 touchdowns, like average 24 yards.
3 touchdowns. I mean, come on.
Like, bro, that's not going to be every game. If that was every game, he wouldn't be in Tampa Bay.
The next thing that stands out to me right away is Cooper Kupp, right?
Yep.
So, like, coming into the season, Brandon Cooks and Robert Woods were both getting drafted in year-long leagues above Cooper Kupp. Well, that turns out to be pretty stupid because he is the number one receiver for the Rams. 10 targets, 9 targets, 12 targets. Great goal line work. Obviously, that's always been Cooper Kupp's thing. And the matchup with Tampa Bay does not scare me at all. Price is coming up, but not enough at all. I love Cooper Kupp this week.
I mean, the thing is, though, went out there and got you 36. He finally came out for the season. Like, we're going to have this the rest of the season, more than likely. He went down $100.
Yeah.
I mean, take him at 6,500.
Just looking at the game logs here, like week 2 is good, 20 points. I just want to know, week 2 I got crushed, but I had Cooper Kupp a lot, and he got marked down at the half-yard line on like a 60-yard touchdown. That would have won me some money on the week, and he got marked down at the half-yard line. So that game right there could have looked a whole lot different for sure.
And, and again, a little off topic, but that goes back to, like, just because that happened, like, go back to him because, look, boom. He gets you almost 40.
So
Cooper Kupp is a phenomenal athlete, too.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I really like Cooper Kupp a lot. Tyler Lockett, someone to consider.
Definitely a lot. So
with Russell Wilson.
Getting a lot of targets after week 1 where he only got 1 target. He's pushed, I believe, double-digit targets back-to-back weeks, 12 and 14.
Yep.
Great deep threat guy. We know this with him. Matchup is fine. I've literally got no problem with Tyler Lockett at all. In my Russell Wilson lineups, I'm definitely going to be going Tyler Lockett a lot with him.
Yeah,
it's going to be a popular stack.
Tyler Lockett. Definitely somebody to consider.
Anything else stand out to you right here?
Again, with Galladay and Marvin Jones, we already talked about Matthew Stafford. They should be passing the ball a lot. Pick your poison with Galladay and Jones.
Wherever your gut feel is.
If you believe in Detroit, I generally like Matthew Stafford almost all the time. So if you're putting Matthew Stafford in there as your quarterback, put Galladay or Jones with him. But if you're wanting to make multiple, alternate them because you don't know. It's going to be it was like the Rams last year. It's either Robert Woods blowing up or it's Cooper Kupp blowing up, or they could both even blow up.
Yeah.
But don't leave one out because there's a good chance either they both could or the opposite is going to.
Yeah. The guy that almost made our big 3, right? Sterling Shepard here at 5,800. Finally has arrived to fantasy relevance because Daniel Jones is now a thing, right? Last week, 9 targets, turned it into 7 catches for 100 yards and a touchdown. Even got some end arounds right there to rush for 21 yards.
Really good.
Really good. The price comes up a lot. It may scare some people. Doesn't really scare me. 5,800 is still pretty cheap for a receiver that looks to project close to 10 targets again. And the matchup obviously doesn't scare me at all. I love Sterling Shepard.
I mean, Daniel Jones doesn't have anybody else to throw the ball to but Devin Ingram and Sterling Shepard.
Yeah.
Cody Latimer's banged up all the time. And
is Wayne Gallman going to be Saquon? I don't know.
What's Wayne Gallman going to be?
So something else to note with Saquon going out, that's like 20% of the target share that's got to go somewhere. Obviously you think Wayne Gallman consumes maybe half of that. Well, where's the other 10% of those targets go? It goes to Shepard and Ingram. So.
And Daniel Jones threw it how many times last week?
36. Not even we seen Russ throw it 50 times last week, right?
But they're going against Washington. He should throw the ball a lot.
Yeah.
That's against Tampa Bay. He should be throwing it. It'd be very easy for him to throw it 50 times. Very easy. So Sterling Shepard is definitely a good play to me.
DJ Moore, right? So
DJ Moore.
I think people are going to be scared about this here. 2 targets last week, but it was a catch for 52 yards and a touchdown. DJ Moore's obviously incredible as far as just being a pure athlete, great deep threat guy.
He's so fast.
People are going to be scared of those 2 targets, but like once again, 14 targets the week prior and 10 the week prior. I think he's most weeks going to be closer to 10 targets than he's closer to 2.
Yeah.
And in a matchup where Houston struggles on the outside against receivers, like this is the prime spot here for DJ Moore.
Absolutely. And then again, we talked about Marvin Jones.
Nothing really.
There's some
right
guys down here that can be
kinda
some tournament plays
like
for you.
Hardman every single week in this offense with his deep playability, but
Just
like
don't bank on it super heavy.
yeah, Christian Kirk is getting all the targets in the world.
Christian Kirk is someone I'm going to have exposure to until it doesn't work anymore. I mean, until he's going to blow up at
eventually,
some point.
well, he's getting these targets.
He's not failing the end zone. Listen, he's got 12, 8, and 12, and last Sunday before they went in, he had 20 targets out of 94 that had been passed. I don't know how many Kyler threw for exactly, but he got another 12 regardless.
He's
getting a third.
Really involved.
He's getting a third of every target.
And a popular like lineup building strategy is if you really like the Seattle like we do, right? You're stacking Russell Wilson with a Tyler Lockett, you run it back on the other side with a guy like Christian Kirk, kind of hoping it shoots out and stuff. So
yes,
definitely could be used in that.
A Russell Wilson, Tyler Lockett, Christian Kirk lineup, very, very good, very good.
Kind of similar vein with DK Metcalf, but I love Lockett a lot more. Obviously, just more secure targets and stuff.
Tournament play
for DK Metcalf, and this is the next guy that's in our core 3, actually for the second time this year because he was in it week 1. But Curtis Samuel, right? With Kyle Allen, you're kind of worried, like, how is he going to change target-wise? Like, is he going to love him? He really likes him, right? Like, 7 targets, finally got in that end zone last week. Big playability is always there with Curtis Samuel. I love the price, man. 4,600, that is just way too cheap, man.
Because if he's going to go out there and get you 16, and he could easily do a lot more.
Yeah,
that's only
easily.
5 catches for 50. He could easily do a lot more. If he breaks one or falls in the end zone twice. For 4,600, you gotta love it. I mean, you have to. So,
and then I want to talk about a quick pivot. I haven't mentioned this to you yet, but Will Fuller, okay, 4,500. He burned me in week 2, but I'm telling you, it's going to happen eventually, man.
Just keep playing.
Back-to-back 7 target games. Like, this dude is ridiculous. Like, down the field threat. I'm telling you, he's going to have a 2-touchdown, 100-yard plus game. It's going to happen, and he is now 4,500. He is so cheap. Like, it's going to happen. I don't know if it's going to be this week. I really don't. But it could be, for sure.
If you've got your optimal lineup that you like and you've got 5K sitting on the table, make one with Will Fuller in it just in case he does explode because people probably aren't going to play him. Like he said, they're going to be scared of, I don't want 10, I don't want 8, I don't want 8. Bro, there was games last year where...
ridiculous. I mean, he legitimately carries 30 to 35 point upside at 4.5K. Like, that always gets you in the discussion for me, no matter what.
We talked about McLaurin.
Off camera a lot. Now, this is not good down here, this injury report that came out today with a hammy. So, like, some injuries throughout the week in practice, I can just shake it off and say, well, they'll be okay come game time or whatever. A hammy is something that once it pops up, like, it could flare up in game.
Yeah.
If he's kind of 50-50 coming in the game, do not do this. But if he ends up being a full go and he's fully healthy, everything's good, you got to love McLaurin this week at 4,500 against the Giants because
8, 9, and 7
8, 9, 7 and gone in the end zone 3 straight weeks. So,
and yardage, 125, 62, 70. Pretty good.
Love it.
Touchdown each week. No fumbles. No, he's pretty much catching what he's getting thrown at him too.
Yep.
For 4,500, I mean, that's but like he said, if they say he's like game time decision, that kind of thing, I'd be a little
worried. I'd
be a little weary on that, even if they say game time decision, because that tells me he's not 100%. That's
pretty much
yeah,
it.
I don't
down
know
here.
of anything down here at all.
You kind of I don't think you're gonna have to go down there this week, at least right now.
No.
There could be some injury news popping up and stuff, but for now, I don't think you have to dive down here.
Tight end's pretty straightforward.
Pretty straightforward this week. So obviously, like we say it every single time we do a video, Kelsey every single week in this offense.
Play
literally.
him. Who cares?
Evan Ingram, 5,700, man. We've been chasing it the entire year, and it's worked, except, week 2? It didn't really work.
Yeah. And we actually went back and forth on Ingram being in the core 3 between Curtis Samuel and Ingram and Sterling Shepard. We already said that Daniel Jones, the football has to go
Yeah.
somewhere. In theory, it should be Sterling Shepard and Evan Ingram only.
Yeah.
And he already gets targets.
Listen, I know people might be scared of this price starting to rise up, but 5,700 compared to Kelsey's 7,200. I mean, like, he's still cheap. 8 and then 14 targets. Like, nothing's going to change. Daniel Jones loves him. He's a great athlete. Like, don't overthink it, man. Get you some Evan Ingram.
I mean, listen, like we said, week 2 he did it. Buffalo's got a good D. That kind of thing.
Talk about his upside. Like, what tight end? I mean, last week he caught a 75-yard pass, 75-yard touchdown right there. Like, what tight end is going to catch you a 75-yard touchdown? Like, it's pretty much Evan Ingram, and that's about it.
Yep. So, Evan Ingram almost made our core 3. We're really on Evan Ingram. And for tight ends, honestly, obviously there's some good plays, some good guys to throw in. Will Dissly is about the only other guy that we are.
The trend all year has just been tight ends against Arizona, regardless. It doesn't matter who they are. If it's Greg Olsen, I can't remember who it was prior. T.J. Hawkinson. It does not matter. Just play him. I know Will Dissly. You're going to think, who the heck is Will Dissly? Will Dissly's coming off a 7-target touchdown game and 5 targets prior. Really low A-dot targets, securable, and he gets red zone work. Like, 3,600, man, I love it. Like, and you don't need a lot. If he catches a touchdown and he catches 3 or 4 passes, like, he got you there. Like, that's it.
And we've been preaching this whole video, Russell Wilson. No reason he shouldn't give him the ball another 7 times if he's throwing it 50.
A lot, yeah.
I mean, there's literally no reason he shouldn't. And listen, big dude, these tight ends, in my head, these tight ends most of the time, if the ball gets near them, they're catching it just because they're so much bigger than whoever they're going up against. If he gets 7 targets, he's catching 6. If he gets 5, he's catching 5. If he gets 7 targets, he's probably going to grab 6 or 7. It's not going to be he gets 7 and he might catch a
3.
couple.
Like, it's not going to happen.
He's going to pretty much get what he's targeted. So he, in my head, at least has a 6 or 7 point floor, which is 2x.
They don't kill you.
No. I mean, and if he falls in the end zone and gets 62 yards, you're in a really good spot. You're in a really good spot.
No reason to go
there's
lower.
There's no reason.
I thought quickly, just want to mention the the tight end for the Raiders, Waller up there. I think he's 5,200.
Yeah,
now.
he's up here.
The targets are ridiculous. Like 14 targets, unreal.
No, hold on though. If you happen to watch this game or was at least following it, like 7 of these targets came on one drive.
I would have to look up the game log. I'm really curious how that happened.
Really strange.
But regardless, outside of that, we'll say 14 targets is an outlier, right? Like the weeks prior, 7 and 8, and really, like 10 yards a catch, like nothing super crazy down the field, like secure. I would say like more of a cash game tight end this week at 5,200.
Yeah. The 7 or 8. They were literally consecutive.
Yeah, pretty much.
Like passes just down the field and then the touchdown. I don't, or not a touchdown, but they ended up scoring a touchdown. They did score, yeah. But that kind of bothers me. Like he said, let's say 7, 8 is his normal. Still pretty good at 5,200 if he can get you 14, 15, in cash. Not really a tournament play.
I think that's pretty much it.
And defenses?
So it's pretty straightforward this week. I'm going to have a lot of Chargers defense if I can get there. And then, of course, Patriots defense against a potentially turnover-prone Josh Allen. I like that a lot. But outside of that, we were talking like nothing really stands out. Maybe the Ravens against the Browns. But for me, the defense that really stands out is the Broncos defense at 2,900. Going up against Gardner Minshew, who has looked okay, but he looks like he doesn't really push the ball down the field a whole lot. You get Denver at home. It's always a good thing is Denver's defense at home against Gardner Minshew and like DJ Chark and Chris Conley. Like, I like that. And we'll get a $1,000 discount off of the top defense. So if you need the salary, that's where I would go.
And so now looking at our big 3, and I threw a defense in there. I know you're thinking like we're not really playing many top name guys other than Eckler. Doing this right here,
it gives you the flexibility
with Broncos D, guys like Curtis Samuel, Daniel Jones. To me, Curtis Samuel and Daniel Jones are like must plays. So I'm not in every lineup, of course. Don't ever do that, but that leaves you 58-40, and we've already talked about so many budget guys that are like 36 and like 44 and 5.
So like if you plugged a Will Dissly or something in tight end, you can get you a couple wide receiver studs, a running backs, and a wide receiver stud. You can go crazy with it.
So when we're making these cores, don't think like these are necessarily like definitive, I have to do this kind of thing. This is just guys that we really like a lot. We're going to have exposure to, and it's really easy to build up a lineup around them.
Yeah.
Because listen, even with Eckler at 8K, like you're leaving 5,800, and that's if you pay 5,800 for every player. There's a lot of guys you can come down on tight ends, and I mean even Evan Ingram's cheaper than 5,800.
Yep.
So when we make these guys, we're just saying like these are really just it's so easy to build up a lineup around these guys that we also really like at the same time. So that is pretty much it for this week, unless you have anything else you want to mention.
No, man. We had a really good week last week. Unfortunately, we didn't get to make the video. It sucks because we had our best week yet so far. Hopefully looking to continue to keep the hot streak rolling this week.
Yep, gonna keep that train rolling. Get that bankroll grinded up. Hope you guys are profitable. And if you came back and watched us for like the third time now, thank you so much. It means a lot. Subscribe, like, comment. Appreciate you guys, and hope we see you at the top of the cash line as always.